Paul O'Sullivan is being accused of something serious. Julius Malema says he does not have the legal qualifications to be advising on aviation and national security. New information has now surfaced that challenges his entire public image. What Malema revealed in Parliament has left many people stunned. Watch till the end, because the implications of this go far beyond politics.
When the advert was taken out for this position, what were the requirements in terms of qualifications?
I can't remember, Chairman. We're going back over a quarter of a century. I didn't keep a copy of the advertisement.
Do you have a degree or equivalent yourself?
No, that wasn't a requirement.
Do you have a degree or an equivalent? You?
No.
So that post will not, Group Executive Aviation and Security will not have required a degree?
No, there was no degree required in the advertisement.
It was designed to suit you?
I don't agree with that. The advertisement came out the week after I had that meeting.
Who was in the panel? How many were they and who were they?
I think there were 4 or 5 directors of Airports Company. The chairman and 3 or 4 other directors.
Was there no one representing the minister at the panel?
Chairman, I can't remember. It's, I think 26 years ago or 25 years ago. But there were people sat there. There were directors of the Airports Company, and there was the chairman of the Airports Company, and I think the group executive HR was there.
Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, everything good about you, you remember it. For sure, you even remember the flight number you came with here. But if something is not of your favor or interest, all of a sudden we're told, yes, it's 26 years ago, it's 30 years ago, but you have detailed every achievement you have made. You remember everything that suits you, that is good about you. There is a panel, you're being interviewed for such a senior position. Was there no one there representing a minister?
Chairman, when I went in for the interview, I didn't ask, where are you from, where are you from, where are you from, where are you from? There were 4 or 5 people there. I can remember the name of Monsieur Romano. There was another gentleman who was a white person. He was a director of the Airports Company representing Aeroporti di Roma, who was a shareholder. And to my knowledge, there was somebody there, but I don't remember who was representing the other shareholder, which was the government of South Africa. And then there was the HR director.
Did you have any qualification or any practical experience that has to do with aviation?
I've been a pilot for 40 years and been a pilot for 40 years.
For 40 years?
Yes.
So you are a qualified pilot?
40 years.
I'm asking, are you a qualified pilot?
I've been a qualified pilot for 40 years.
You went to school to be a pilot?
Yes. I own my own aircraft.
I live that. That I understand. But school, because those people of pilots go to school and then they have to do some hours. Have you done all of that?
I've done all of that.
And then you had security experience, because it's aviation and security.
I have that experience. I went on a course in the United States to learn specifically about aviation security because I wanted to understand. There's an organization called ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization. And they have a training center where they train people and they qualify them as aviation security specialists.
So will you be able to give us a certificate of that aviation security that you went to America for,
if I can,
and your pilot certificate?
Well, I can show you my pilot's license right now.
No, not license, school, the school. where you attended school. Obvious, when you finish, they give you a qualification. Will you attach it? Will we get it tomorrow?
If I can, what do you mean if tomorrow? If I can find it.
Two things, please try to find them.
Chairman.
One of aviation security institution that you attended to in America, and the qualification, not license, because there is a certificate that you get which will tell us where did you go and do your training, and then how many hours did you serve before you qualified to become a pilot.
Chairman, I wouldn't have any. I didn't fly to Cape Town with all these documents, knowing that I would be asked these type of questions from 40 years ago. The reality of the situation is, and there is my pilot's license. I have a pilot's license. I didn't buy it on the street corner. I did my training. I have my own aircraft. I fly my own aircraft on a regular basis. You know,
I wouldn't know if you bought it at your own street corner if you don't give me the qualification. The ticket doesn't say anything. When it comes to academic qualifications, that ticket you're showing me doesn't mean anything. I want certified documents that come from a recognizable institution that confirms that you went training to become a pilot and you passed the certain levels of the requirements, and the institution in America to check if that institution is recognizable institution and its qualification is recognizable. And we need both, even if it's not tomorrow, Chair. We need to, because here is a post, we're being told he can't remember what were the requirements. He doesn't have a degree or post-matric qualification. It says he went to aviation security to some institution and all of that. We need to see all of that, to see if indeed there was some element of qualification closer to this post that was specifically created for him.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. No, I just want to confirm one or two things. So, Mr. O'Sullivan, you said you were approached by Ramano and Mr. Dula Oma, correct?
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't say that. I said I was approached by Mr. Romano, who wanted a meeting.
Ramano and
who wanted a meeting with the minister, and
so they said
a meeting, and then I met them.
Bonani says they are not related.
No, I know he's not talking about the Ramano we have here. But what I want to check is, so they persuaded you to apply, correct? They said you must consider.
They invited me to apply.
To apply.
Yes.
And then were you vetted before you were considered for the job? Were you vetted?
I don't know what their internal mechanisms were, but I'm assuming they carried out the normally.
No, my question, I think, should start like this. The first job that you did was being a detective at the airport, which was a national key point, correct?
Correct.
The airport was the national key point. What was your responsibility?
Worked in the border police there.
As a police?
Yes.
Were you vetted?
No.
So you worked as a police at the airport, which was a national key point, without being vetted.
They may have vetted me, I don't know, but I was a reservist.
So you had no a clearance certificate?
My knowledge, not.
Okay, no, thank you, Chair.
Honorable James, you will be the last, and we.
Thank you, Chair. I'll save my questions for later, but I just need clarity. In 1997, when you got this paid job, was it as the group executive or was it at border control management?
I didn't hear what job?
The job when you started, you said earlier on in 1997 was your paid job at the airport.
All right.
You were dealing with drug-related trafficking and working at border control. I'm trying to understand, was it a paid job via SAPS or was it this group executive job?
No, Chair. I was a police reservist.
You were police reservist.
I was a police reservist at the airport.
Working at border control.
Border police, not border control.
Border police.
Border control was carried out by the immigration department.
So you were police reservist responsible for drug trafficking.
No, Chairman, I wasn't a police service responsible for drug trafficking. I was a police reservist in the border police. And we were involved in a lot of activities, which included human trafficking, drug prevention. It was crime prevention.
Okay, I'm going to leave it for later. And then also, just to make 100% certain, you have no other qualifications, nothing. You don't have any law qualifications, engineering, nothing.
No, completely unqualified.
Completely. Nothing in law, nothing in engineering.
That's correct.
I'll get back to this later. Matric, do you have a matric?
We don't have matric where I went to school. That's a South African qualification.
Anything equivalent to a matric?
Of course I have.
What is that?
We call it O-levels and A-levels, but I mean, we're talking about 40 years ago, or 50 years ago.
You were group executive. No qualifications.
Of course I had qualifications. With all respect, Chairman, regarding, and by the way, I was also at some point an aviation security auditor. I was a person that carried out aviation security audits. So I had all that training and all those skills.
I'm going to leave it at that, Mr. O'Sullivan. You must remember what you told this committee now when I come back later. And this is why it was very important for you to have a CV as part of your statement. Then we wouldn't have been having this.
My own understanding, and I may be wrong, is that most of us largely have the value system that defines who we are imparted on us at a very young age. And I mean really in the 10, 15 years, at 20 years from where you were in the 80s, from what I'm hearing, you are already formed as a citizen. That's why you can even want to travel to another country. You are well formed, you understand the environment within which you live in. Now, in the light of the question that Mr. Malema was raising about what appears to have been a level of ignorance or naivety on your part about the country that you were beginning to have a very keen interest to go and work, which is South Africa. How do we reconcile that part? How do we reconcile that with what is said in your statement?
Thank you, Chair.
You have, over a period of time, 20, 30 years, made interventions to fight against injustice. How do we reconcile that? Because I think you becoming a proponent or a fighter for justice could not have been something that just occurred after 1994. In the early 80s, the way in which injustices was perpetrated in the country, which is what Mr. Malema was raising, should have really said something to you as you were about to decide that I'm traveling to South Africa, in a country where the overwhelming majority of the people, especially from the Black community, were major victims of a white perpetrated system of injustice. How do we reconcile that? If somebody listens to you today and the 20-year-old you then, who, as I said, by that time at 20 years, should have been already imbued with a particular value system about what is right and wrong and what to stand for. That's what I wanted to hear your comment on in relation to that question and that matter.
No, Chairman, that's quite, I would say, a good question. And in some regards, I took a decision probably in my early 30s that actually what I wanted to do was to improve the life of South Africans. And I'm not talking about the white Afrikaners and the white people, but I wanted to improve the lives of Black people in South Africa, because I felt that that was the type of contribution I wanted to make. And I absolutely have some evidence of that here, which we will come to. And I'm satisfied that, well, I'm maybe not satisfied, but I accept that in my 20s, my views were perhaps naive. But as life went on, I realized, no, we can improve the lives of people in South Africa, and I can demonstrate that that's exactly what I've done. And I don't want to take away from the evidence leaders, but we will come to that at some point in time. But, you know, every person in their life realizes that no matter what you do in life, sometimes your life isn't perfect. Sometimes what you do, you think, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Or maybe I shouldn't have felt that way. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Or maybe I shouldn't have done that. But you can't change history, but you can change the future. And what I do with my life, certainly over the last 36 years, is I've tried to make South Africa a better country for all its people, especially the previously disadvantaged people. And in that regard, I can demonstrate that I spend a lot of my time and energy and my own personal money in doing that.
No, Chair, I wanted to say that the answer has not been adequate, but I'm prepared to live with what has been provided now. And during my tenure, I can expand on this issue so that I don't completely divert the proceedings as led by the evidence leaders. Thanks.
If you've made it this far, you already know how serious this story really is. And if this information matters to you, make sure you support the video by liking it. Subscribe to the channel for more real stories that mainstream media often avoids. And turn on notifications, because the next part of this case is even more intense.
I'm sorry to do this to you, Chair, but also to put it on record that in his affidavit, paragraph 6, he says, I came from the UK to live in South Africa in 1989, because he was trying to create a different impression that he came here in 1995. He came to live here in 1989, and he had business interest here way before 1989. It is in his own affidavit.
Yeah, we will come to that. Just note it down, Mr. O'Sullivan, because...
Yes, Chairman, I didn't say...
No, don't respond. Okay. I'm just saying note it down because we now have three dates. We have 1982, the year of the application of your handwritten letter and the letter of Mr. Watterson. There is 1989, there is 1995. Honorable Skosana.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to emphasize that as well. Hence, when we started, when the evidence leader was asking Mr. O'Sullivan that we agreed that we are disregarding that 1990 issue. Hence, the letter was read for us here that in 1982, he applied for a work permit and the work permit was rejected. And I just wanted to remind him quickly that you remember that, you know, your friend who was an MP, Mr. Watson, what you said just now is contrary to what when he made an application trying to help you to get a work permit in this country, for you to, in fact, a permanent resident, for you to settle permanent in South Africa, that he said that you are the most educated, intelligent, and a very conservative political attitude which you can add to white community in this country. Now, the letter was written to Director General Van der Merwe. Do you remember that?
Chairman, I think I've made it clear earlier during intense questioning by the evidence leader that I saw this letter for the very first time the other day.
Yes, but do you agree that the letter is legit?
The letter is what?
Is legit.
Legitimate.
Is legitimate.
It's an authentic document.
I'm not disputing it, but I cannot say anything about it because I never saw it before in my life.
Yeah, so in other words, the context of that letter, do you have any problem with it? That you were an ex-7-man club, that's where you met in the UK with Miss Frank Martin.
When I saw the letter, I never recalled this fellow Watterson, never. When I saw the letter, I immediately raised it with Advocate Kise, and I said, oh, somebody showed me this, but I didn't have a copy of it to show her. And I said, oh, this is probably going to come up.
No, thank you, Chair. When our time comes, we will really transverse on these matters because really they are very important. You know, we can't be misled. And I mean, Mr. O'Sullivan knows exactly what we are talking about here. Since 1982, not 1997 or 1996 or 1990. Thank you.
Honorable Skosana, Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, he asked you whether you are happy with the motivation that is made in that letter for you to get permanent residence. There is a motivation that you are educated, you are intelligent, you are a conservative, and you are an ex-service officer. You can be very useful to the wide community of this country.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that motivation?
No, Chairman.
Okay. Honorable Ngola.
No, Chair, I was actually coming to the very same point that I find the evidence by the witness very much gravely contradictory. You would have made an example of the 1982 thingy, and amidst that, he completely lost his memory when asked and pressed on the issue of the citizenship. When pressed by the evidence leader, I then moved on and spoke about 1987 November. In paragraph 6 is 1989. Then when asked by Advocate Mkhize, it's now 1994 and 1995. So I think it suffices that we follow up that process we said we'll undergo, because if we take what has been argued before us, it's gravely contradictory, and it actually puts a particular image about the credibility of the witness in front of us. But I think we'll endure and try to get to the bottom of it. Thank you very much.
Chairman, I can respond immediately to that. I never said in my affidavit that I became a citizen in 1989. I applied for permanent residence. I only got my citizenship in 1995. And I probably didn't bother putting that in the affidavit, or I forgot to put it in the affidavit, but I can assure you I was a permanent resident. I never became a citizen in 1989. I never had a South African passport until 1995.
Chair, maybe let's take Mr. O'Sullivan on what he has written in his affidavit. The English here is very simple. In 1989, due to my investment in property, I successfully applied for permanent residence as a person of independent means. Successfully applied. That's what the English in your affidavit is saying.
For permanent residence. Not for citizenship. For permanent residence. There's a big difference between the two. When you get your ID book, Chairman, your last 3 digits in the ID book, if you're permanent resident, it's my ID number then ended in 185. It now ends in 085 because I'm a citizen.
At this point, the real question is no longer about personalities. It's about accountability, transparency, and who is truly qualified to influence national security. If these allegations are accurate, then this is not just a political dispute, it's a public concern. And until clear answers are provided, the doubts around this case will only continue to grow.